Hello legends and super legends, welcome to Veloharmony. Today is a mild day for us. It's about 57, 58 Fahrenheit, which is around like 16, 17 Celsius. And it's gonna warm up in the upper 60s Fahrenheit, probably around 19, 20 C during the ride. So it's one of those mornings where it's kind of cool, but it's gonna be mild. So I'm not putting on any arm warmers or anything. But I do have on a base layer, sleeveless base layer, and this is a mid-weight jersey. And I just got the accessories to match. I'm even getting the gloves to match. It helps the colors pop. It's gonna be an overcast day. So I'm taking my sunglasses that change with the light. They start out clear, and then they get darker as you get more sunlight, so they're gonna be perfect. I'm just gonna put them on the back of my head right now, because it's still dark because of daylight savings time. Taking a variety of food. I got one for Paul called Belvito. My wife introduced me to this. Paul's already familiar with it. We got it from Sam's, and it's got good energy, but this is made out of wheat flour. It's pretty good. It gives us a variety. We'll be on the bike for a while. We're gonna try to hook up with Mo and them today, and we'll get some clips for you. And I hope you're able to get some K's in. Don't let anything stop you. Gotta get out of here. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We went out on Flint Ridge Road to Sterling Ridge. We got there early, so we killed some time, and then we picked up the Woodland Cycling Club, headed out on Honia Egypt Road. We did a double Paceline out there. We filmed. It's really cool. We did a back bypass on Fish Creek because there was a train there blocking us. Rode into Montgomery. At that point, we kind of let the group go. They went into the forest. We did the same route, but we were behind them because the pace was very intense, and Paul wanted to back off and save his knees from any issues for our upcoming RBC Grand Fondo. So we came back south on 149 into Montgomery, went through the Tri-Lakes area. When we got to Gary, we took the Keenan cutoff. In the Grand Lake Estate, we met Jerry, and we rode back with Jerry on Honia Egypt Road back into the woodlands. It was a very, very pleasant day for a bike ride. I hope you all got a chance to get some K's in, but I think you will enjoy the clips.
We're live, my brother.
What do we want to do?
I said we want to ride. Everybody laughed.
We've used it for all week, and now we have not done it in a while. Simply the very simple ride of going up north towards Richard, but instead of going to Richard, take a left and come back to the forest.
That's Maurizio Topini.
Simple pedal loop. Counterclockwise. You like it more clockwise?
Let's talk to somewhere where you take clockwise.
Clockwise?
It's Jerry Ludner right
You
there.
said it's harder, right? Clockwise?
Yeah.
So we go that way and come south on
Jerry wants to go the hard way.
So we go on 149,
Hill.
I brought my bungee.
whatever that one is. So first stop, it won't be until we come back all the way to California. So if you need any extra water, we have it.
2 bottles here.
Yeah, but I only have one, I'll take the left.
Yeah, my seat, I just can't get my seat right on the bike. So
You got this bike there.
Yeah, Jerry's seat is slipping on the other bike he has.
I only have one bottle. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's got one bottle
It's
cage.
not hot till
It's
later.
not hot.
Yeah, till later. Yeah, I was
Well,
kind
the other
of
thing we can
things
do-
between 1 or 2.
But that's fine.
The other thing we could, there's no other option. The only option is once you get to the end,
I'll be fine.
149, we have to take a left to go to Richard, but that makes sense.
We're good. I think.
All right, good?
Yeah.
Hey, you good? You got your fingernails?
It's Saturday. It is Saturday.
Katie said it's Saturday. That means you got to ride long.
My wife.
That's Katie's husband right there, Jared Black.
my little BMW.
I'm showing Mo the Belvita that I talked
I
about.
gotta go pick them up.
Yeah, I was like, it looked like cars. So much better. And I was like,
No, I'll take my wife's.
it looks that way.
She just got a.
Everybody just chatting.
Whatever.
That's Jared right there in black.
I'm so
That's Jesus in the look like an orange and gray, and that's Mike F in the blue. You guys know more on my left there. There's Katie. She's coming. She got new wheels, so she was messing around with it, testing it out. And that's Mike with the naked on his jersey there. But Katie's just kind of making sure her wheels are good. We found out she got new wheels.
I was listening to
Building up your power, huh?
She going back to the van. Something's up. So Jared's going over to help her. So I sped it up here. Katie's messing with something. We're waiting for her. In a little while with her. Don't rush, because you can see she's really hurrying. These guys really like to be on time. I really love that about this group. Mo says cycling time is precious.
Yeah, the guys on the channel asked, like, why don't you have a saddlebag? I said, well, my leg is kind of
But the shorter stuff, she always knew that every time they race,
Talking about saddlebags.
top 5.
You will see Mike F for sure as a saddlebag. He's got a real thin one. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I'll gotta look for that. It's about the thickness of a seat post. Mo says that if you get a bag that sticks out the back, the upper back of the saddle, which is cool because it's out of the way. In a little bit, we spot his old school way of carrying his toolkit. We used to do that when we raced. That's Jesus right there. Jesus like a narrow Quintana kind of rider. He's a small guy. Spins a
I
lot.
was surprised how little.
Where does he carry?
film that.
So I think the camera was off.
That's we used to do that. You would use 2 bottles, and you can use the old top, slip it on top of it. That's his patch key.
Look at that. That's an old
That's
pro,
old
man.
school.
That's
yeah.
how you do it.
And you cut 2 bottles, and you take the
That's
other
cool.
one. You can even make a top.
That's cool.
But like you said, when it's hot here,
He said when it gets hot, you need 2 bottles, and then he switches to
yeah, I have this little
an essentials kit, like a wallet, like we have. So I sped it up here a little bit.
Okay.
We don't want you to rush and have a problem.
Yeah, that's
don't
Katie.
rush
She's
it
done.
now.
Right?
Okay. So since you're gonna have to pull.
The only, I guess we don't have a lot of else. What I was planning to do, what I wanted to do this morning, I was looking for more people. I wanted to, on the way out from Fish Creek, I wanted to do a little bit of double Paceline, kind of easy though. So that, just
Enough to get to.
yeah, but actually it does. Last week we've been working on it, right?
Yeah. And then inevitably, like, the front leg was a little harder, a little harder.
No, just keep
Pretty
it.
soon you're going 35 miles.
That's what Mike's saying is double baselines are tough.
We all have
Because people keep accelerating.
speedometers. Keep the speed limit at 22. If you go above 22,
So Mo says we should
stay
use
there
our
long.
speedometer and just hold it. But once the road starts to go up, it's hard to hold that speed, so you have to back off a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
man, yeah, that was cool.
But we
I
got
was
some
looking for a
good
shot.
clips of
I'm
it.
glad
Paul
that
did
he
a great
filmed
job
it.
filming that.
It was good. I found it good. Oh, cool. Yeah, because people don't get to see themselves riding. You get to see how you look on the bike. And, yeah. Yeah, Paul turned me on to that. He was the first person to film me. I'd never filmed myself. I was filming other people. When I met Paul, he filmed me. I was like, that's how I look. That's kind of cool.
Paul filmed me. I said, is that how I look? Because I'd never seen myself on the bike. And so Jerry was very happy about the film that we made with him. And he said he sent the link to his parents. And we're talking about, just how cool it is to see yourself.
They're afraid. Some of them are afraid to go to a group ride. Yeah. So these videos have helped a bunch of them. They're like, oh, so this is how you guys slow down. Pull out the way. And now they go to the group ride with more people.
So we're talking about the channel, But because of this conversation, Mo hears us talking, and we ended up learning something very, very neat about Mo's cycling escapades when he was in his 20s.
That was pretty cool.
Paul asked if Jerry saw the thumbnail for that video that we made with Jerry as the feature rider, and Jerry said yeah. So right here at this light, Paul Ilonga is going to try to do like a group photo, but then the light changes.
Excuse me, I'm going to take this. God, I missed it.
He was going to try to do a group photo, and then the light changed, so he didn't get the opportunity. I wasn't aware of it. You can see where I am. I ended up calling and asking him when I saw the clip, like, what did you miss at that intersection? So then he told me. So a lot of things I would call and chat with Paul to find out what they were talking about. That's Mike right here. I didn't get his last name, but he's ridden with us. This is like the second time, I think, at least. That's Jerry Lutner in the middle. That's Jared on the left. McCluskey, that's Katie's husband. On the right, that's Jesus with the kind of the orange and black and gray. There, the two guys here. This is Mike on the left, and that's Mike F on the right. And Mike F has a profile on Strava. That's how come I got his last initial. I just met this guy in detail. I'd met him before. Mike here on the left is a runner, like a marathon runner, and he's just getting back into cycling. And that's the thing I wanted to mention here, is that he's in shape for running, but now he's gonna come tune his body for cycling. So it's very sport specific. You can do cross training to get general conditioning, but when you're ready for your main event, you gotta do that sport. And so he's a little out of shape for cycling for him. You know, he's not too out of shape, but for his previous levels, he's trying to get back to top form. And so that's why he's back on the bike. You guys can see Mo's light up there is swirling around. That mode that it's in, that's the cycle light. I believe he has the 150. That's the one that they call day lightning, I believe. It is just, that's my favorite setting when I have it on my bike. It's beautiful. It just does a lot of stuff, like a light storm. It's beautiful. You guys will see that. So I'm up there chatting with Mo, and he had heard already that, you know, Jerry was mentioning how he liked being on film and how it was cool to see himself, and then he sent his photos and he complimented me. He said, man, you should be a broadcaster. You're really good at it. And I thought that was cool. Yeah, Katie said you got to get my new wheels on film. So he's filming that. Yeah. She's got new wheels on her bike. I don't follow Katie in the Paceline because Katie gets so arrow that I don't get much of a draft. She has a really low position when she starts to work hard. So I like to follow the bigger guy. Look at Jesus, he's spinning. He reminds me of Quintana and the other climbers.
No, it's not.
They're talking about Katie, and he's asking questions about what we do with the video and this and that. In a little while, Paul would tell him about the channel, give him the name of the channel.
Well, we used to do that.
He's telling Paul, why don't you guys mount it? Everybody says that, and
How we rest.
it's just we kind of laugh and we mention to them, yeah, that's what Paul said, we used to do that, whatever, but it's kind of like the way we do it is what makes this unique. That driver over there, he's already at the stop sign, he starts to go, then he stops, so he messes up this guy. So we finally just arrived now, and Moses says, let's go if you're gonna wait. We get that a lot of times, and it's almost like they see a bicycle and they expect us to like not follow the law or whatever, but they almost like they panic, some of them, and they're just he's overly cautious, and we'll see another driver later in the film that takes chances. So you get both sides, and so when they stop like that, if I'm already stopped, I don't go. I let them go to treat me like a vehicle in traffic. We were kind of still rolling. We had it unclipped, and he stopped. So Mo said, let's go.
And so we went as a train through there. So if he had gone, it would never have been an issue because he was already there before we got to the corner. But just be aware when you're riding, some drivers freak out when they see a cyclist because they think we're gonna do something, or they treat us like kids on bicycles, you know, like the bikes are toys. Some of them do. And so take advantage of it. If they wave you through and it's safe, go ahead and take that courtesy and go. There's the driver sitting behind us, very patient, so that's cool. But it would have been cool if he or she had just gone. Then we'd be behind on the road because we were not even at the corner yet. So that's okay. I just wanted to kind of point that out. Sometimes it disrupts the traffic when they behave like that. I'm sitting at the front with Mo, guys, and at this point, Mo is telling me about how, because Jerry had mentioned it was nice to see himself on film. Mo said, yeah, I don't have too many films of myself, but I have this one tape, which I think VHS, of myself in a race. And he's just casually telling me that because the theme is seeing yourself on film. He said, I got this one film where I'm in a race with Casagrande and Bartoli, and I got the better of them. And that's about the only film I have. And then it dawns on me that he's talking about Michele Bartoli and Francesco Casagrande. And that was when Mo was in his 20s. That's like 30 years ago. And I was blown away. I was like, Todd mentioned, I said, Michele Bartoli? I was like, wow. And these are guys that I followed, you know, like I followed Le Mans and all of them. And that was like the level that he raced at in his 20s, you know, with the top guys that are top UCI pros. So I was very, very blown away. I mean, we see the quality on the road, but it's just nice that every so often you find a little more about what his adventures in cycling has been. But we talked about a lot of things while I'm there. So I'm staying on the right, on the shoulder, because I want to hear his conversation. That's all my goal is right there. I'm working because 33 kilometers an hour, and we're going, and when Mo starts to talk, he gets animated, he's very passionate. He starts riding faster without thinking about it. So you gotta ride if you wanna hear. I'm there and I'm leaning my ear. I keep close to him. I'm leaning so I can hear every word, because you know the wind can distort things. And right here the road is gonna narrow, there's a bridge and they don't have a shoulder. So you see he moved over and I just moved over. But I'm staying next to him to get all the details, because he doesn't talk about his stuff that much. So when the opportunity comes about, which was a fluke because of Jerry liking to see himself on film, it was a great thing to find out that he had raced with Michele Bartoli and Francesco Casagrande. And in a little while, I went and did some research, got their pictures. In a little while, I will put the pictures of the two guys that he's talking about. Michele Bartoli raced with a lot of teams, MG team, Casagrande, I think Mapaye, one of them, you know. But I got their profile from Wikipedia and just put it on there. But these are riders that I emulate, especially Michele Bartoli, as far as being smooth on the bicycle. So I was really thrilled to be riding with somebody who had been in a breakaway. Not only been in a breakaway, but got the better of those guys in a breakaway when Mo was in his 20s. They're probably a few years younger than Mo, I think, because it's like they're 48 now. Yeah, a few years younger. But it was just exciting. I was like, man, you hear me tell Paul and I'm all excited in a little while. But that's why I'm up there. I'm working just to stay there to hear the story. So I'm on the side again, and I'm trying to stay right there because he's just chatting, and you know, we're talking about many different things. We're talking about the sport of cycling, how it's a little slow in the U.S. The racing part is not growing. People are not showing up the races and stuff like that. And that was just sad to hear. Some of the bigger races we used to do, one in the McKinney area, in the Dallas area, was canceled this year because they didn't even have a sponsor for the race. So that's why the day after this ride, I rode with Mo's group again, because I want to kind of start doing some of their events, maybe go to some races when I can. We got to revive our racing side of cycling in the U.S. So you go to races, you know, he was saying that, you know, people not showing up, the low turnout, you know, it's just, I guess it's all the travel and other things, but then when you keep getting low turnout, then the sponsors
fall away and the people cannot put these events together. It's not practical. That's the two Mikes, Mike F on the left and Mike on the right. I didn't get his last initial. That's Katie back there just chilling. And this is Jesus on the left here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like
Jesus ride with very high cadences. Seems to suit him. It's like his natural style. He just reminds me of the climbers, like a climber type. And so is Mo. You know, Mo is probably about 140 something pounds. And that's Jerry on the right there that was talking about he liked being on film. It's really good to see yourself. I made a joke about it when Paul filmed it. I said, do I look? Is that how I look? I've never seen myself ride. You know, you get pictures and don't tell the whole thing. So at this point here, I'm a little tired. I'm like, I don't know if I want to sit up here chatting with Mo at these speeds. We're still talking. So you'll see in a little while he starts to talk to Jerry, and I use that as an opportunity for Jerry to get up there so I can get behind somebody and take a bit of a break. It's not too hard, but it's just that when you're riding up there, the speed's changing. When Mo's talking, he's not aware of the speed, he's just riding. And the more excited he gets, the faster you go. So I'm still there trying to get the stories, because it's just you don't get it that often. And in a little while he will say something to Jerry, because we're talking about being on film, and then I'll move over and give Jerry room. There's Katie. She's testing her new wheels. So she's gonna blast off and go and take the main road. We're gonna take like the side road of Old Egypt Road, and we end up meeting up again. You'll see that. So she's up ahead going, she's testing her wheels. She's got some new wheels, all stealth. The bike stealth, the wheels stealth. You see the light on Mo's bike? That's the light that got me to look into the Cyclery products. Because when we stopped, it was months ago, probably in December or something, we were on a ride with Mo, and he showed me the light, the name, Cyclery. Look at that. That's the day and lightning Mo. Look at that thing roll around. That's what Robert Tengler said when he saw my light in that mode. He said, there's a lot going on there. It's a busy light, something like that. This is where he talks to Jerry, and I drift back so Jerry can get up there. Yeah, it's really cool. Every time you chat with Mo, depending on what the conversation is, you learn a little bit more. Look at Jesus. Look at Jesus's cadence. He's spinning faster than I am. Everybody rides differently. That's what suits him. He's a smaller guy. He likes the high cadence stuff, and that's how he's conditioned. So his cruising cadence is high. It's Mike F on the right back there. In a few kilometers, we do a double Paceline. One of the harder Pacelines to maintain, because how you see Jesus on the right there, the people on the right are supposed to continually go up and come to the left, so like he would come in front of me. But my job after pulling off the front is to back off at least a mile per hour, so that the guy on the right does not have to accelerate. He can hold the same speed and get in front of me. The issue is some people accelerate and they don't slip right in front of you, so you end up with a gap, so you don't get a wheel to rest while you're on the left, and you will see that happen. So Mo wants us to work on that. He mentioned that he wanted to work on that because we met him before we got to the YMCA. He was out spinning to kill the time like we were, and we chatted about that. So I think it's great, because when you get it right, you save a lot of energy, because you only work a very short time each rotation when it's done right. I will explain as we're doing it. We turn on Old Egypt Road here, and I get the opportunity now to update Paul, who was not aware of what we're talking about up there when I was with Mo.
Killing myself to stay this guy up there, because And be careful about totally.
No way!
Right in the breakaway, he's got the film on VHS.
Oh, man.
You gotta get it to me.
Michele Bartoli always just had the best form on a bicycle. Just smooth.
Francisco Casagrande, Michele Bartoli, man. They were in the breakaway.
No way!
That's Paul, I'm telling you, man.
That was so cool to find out. That was cool.
In a breakaway.
So Moore got the better of them
That's good.
tactically.
Put your hands on
He
that
took the chance
VHS.
and benefited.
Bring
You have
it
to
in
take
the channel.
the opportunities
That's the good stuff.
when they show
Yeah.
themselves.
My man, Bartoli.
Those are the boys I used to watch on VHS from famous cycling videos in the 80s, late 80s, 90s. Long before the internet was alive, all we had was VHS tapes. They were usually months behind the events when you got them. So that's what we're chatting about. I sped it up because this was a long life. There was no car there, so somebody had to push the, I don't know if somebody did or not. It eventually changes for us. So you have to practice your clip-ins. You see how quickly we got in? You can't be fumbling, because you can get gap when you ride with other riders. So when you ride solo, practice, and your pedals should not be so tight that you have to put pressure to clip in. It should just snap in. If it's too tight, back off the tension. So we continue to chat about the conversation that I was having with Mo. I was updating Paul. Mo was talking about racing in the U.S. and how it's not growing. And then he mentioned that he'd gone, when he went to Italy, you know, it's really big in Europe, you know, so it's like, it's being encouraged from the grassroots. We have to do more over here. And even when I used to race, it was the same thing. You go to certain races, the turnout would not be enough, and they would join the different categories. Like you'd have Cat 4 and 5 riding together, or you'd have Pro 1, 2, 3 riding together because the field was so small. We talked about so many things like maintaining the bike. You know, Mo was saying that noise on the bike is so annoying that he just can't rest till he gets to the bottom of it. And he had situations where the cable on the bicycle that feeds like the brakes or shifter, one of them, was making noises. And you know, it's hard to find those things. And all he had to do when he finally tried, he lubed the housing or something, and then the noise went away. So even though the noise is sign that something may be wrong, just the noise itself when you're out riding is very annoying. I hate hearing anything when I'm riding my bike. So I'm very anal about making sure I find out what's making the noise so it can go away. But he does stay on top of his maintenance, and that's what it takes. That's what we talk about here. Because you know, you're going to be 20, 30 miles from home, 50 miles from home. You need to make sure your bike is in excellent condition. That just makes sense. We're talking about a squirrel running over on the right there. I didn't put an arrow on him, he's so small. But the squirrel came in the middle of the road, and when he saw us, he jumped back. Just some quick moves, lateral moves. That's like we're talking about that.
This is where we went to make a U-turn by the
golf course?
country club, yeah.
Okay.
So Paul is telling me that Jesus lives close to where the ride starts, the area where we met Mo. We were out spinning just because we got there early. And so we killed some time just spinning. I'd much rather get there early and spin than to be late and rushing. This is a Fish Creek thoroughfare. On the map, they marked it as Honia, Egypt. So I discovered that this weekend. I was looking at the map. This section, they called it Honia, Egypt.
We find you.
That's Katie. She catches up with us. She was waiting for us at that corner right there. So she took the main road and hammered, and she was right there. She got there before we did, and she was waiting for us. Paul said, we found you. So when you follow Katie, look at her position. When she sits, she gets lower than that when she's going hard. So I'm like, if you're following her, you got to be very, very low to get a great draft.
So that's your new ride,
So we thought it was a new bike, but it's just a new wheel. I mean, with their new wheels, let's put it that way. You can see the stealth, just like the bike, everything just blends in. Looks cool.
So we're gonna be at your mercy today, huh?
Paul's just messing with we're gonna Katie is a hammerhead, Jerry is a hammerhead, Mike F in the blue is a hammerhead. Those are the three that are going to be like thoroughbred horses that you can't hold back when we start to do the Paceline. And in a while after we start doing the Paceline, some guy that we don't know passes us, and these three take offense to that. That's the road racers and you'll see it develop. Because Mo is trying to keep the group together and keep us working on this Paceline. And this is a tough road to do it all because of the undulations. It's easier on a smoother road, but you know, it's early in the morning. Why not? So you'll see in a little while Mo will motion for us to right there. That's the thing. So now, let's say I think Jerry goes, I get behind Jerry. So the way this works is the line on the right is the faster line. So when you pull off from the right, you're supposed to drift and give the rider that's on the left your rear wheel. And as you do that, you should back off the speed of the right line by about 1 mile per hour, thereabouts, so that this line can always be moving. When it's done right, it's flawless. There's too much of a gap between Katie and Jared. He went too far ahead. That's what Mo wants us to work on. And that gaps will develop for different reasons, like if you're backing up because the road's crappy. If you watch me, as I go by here, I'm gonna look under my arm. I'm looking at Jerry's wheel, and I just drift over to give him a wheel. And then Paulie Lunga comes around. I was going to edit this part because when Paul and I discussed just to shorten it, but I decided to leave it more realistic because I want you to see that the rider behind Paul was going too far ahead. And this is Mike. You see that? There's too much room. Mike should have come over. You see, Moore's already on Mike. You see, look at this gap. It shouldn't be there. Mike should have come over earlier. You see how Moore is just coming right in front of Mike, right there. And then Jesus should be closer to Moore so that we have no gaps. That means the only time you're fighting the wind is like where Jesus is. When he starts to drift over, that's where he's working. Once he drifts over, he should back off the pace so that Mike F there in the blue will give him a wheel. That means you're only working when you're at the front and you're going over. That's the only time you're working, because when you're at the back, right here as we're approaching, Mike on the left now should be looking for the last rider, which is Paulie Lunga. He should start, by the time his front wheel gets to Paulie Lunga's crank arms, he should start sliding over to the right so that he gets right behind Paul. So that means he gets from Mo's wheels to Paul's wheel, and he continues to stay in shelter. That's the way. So that means the whole time when it's done right like this, that's what you see, you always protect it until you get to the front for that instant to get in front of that rider. So you work very little. Jared did it better this time. Right there now, Jerry's gonna come over. There you go. Now I'm gonna roll through because Jerry should back off.
This is where problems happen. If Jerry doesn't back off, then I have to speed up. We're going downhill, so it's a little challenging. You see I'm soft pedaling, so I drift in front of Jerry to protect him from the wind. Now Paulie Longa needs to come. He should have been closer. But you know, we're just trying to get him going. So now he's gonna slide in front of me and give me a wheel. And then he's done working, he backs off. And that rider should have been right there to come in front of Paul. But you can see how long it's taking before Mike comes. And look, he's going so far. So Mike is not comfortable with this. And then you see gaps in the Paceline. Katie's having to come up to Mike F. So something happened back there. You see Jared got behind Katie. So that's the theory of how it should work. Right there you see Jesus just slide in front of Mo. So he gives Mo's protection. Then Mike F now will start to do the work. So now he's working. Jesus is working a little less. As soon as Mike F gets in front of Jesus is in the draft. That's it. A rotating Paceline. And you can rotate from counterclockwise like we're doing, or you can rotate clockwise based on what the wind is doing. This is a lot of this happens a lot in breakaways, so that everybody gets to keep the speed high and nobody stays at the front too long. I'm leaving a bit of a gap to Jerry because I want to see the road. It's a little bumpy in certain spots on this road and I'm aware of it. But now you get the gist of what I just explained. See, Jared's a little too far up, but he's backing up. You see, he's soft pedaling. That's good. Now Jerry should come over. That's why I look for the person's wheel, because you want to come over right in front of this rider. As soon as you pass the rider, you see I look and I drift over. And then Paulie Longa comes by right away. He's going to give me a wheel. That's it. So you work for just that short period. And you do this, you can go faster, longer. This guy's going too far in front of Paulie Longa, because I even told Paul one time, I said, well, you're not in the draft, but then you have to work hard to get up to Mike here. Mike should have been drifting over closer. But you know, he probably hadn't done this. He's not a road guy, you know, he's a multi-sport guy, so it's probably, and even a lot of road guys that have problems with this, it's not the easiest Paceline to master, but I think it is very, very efficient. You see how I drifted over behind Jerry? I left Paul's wheel, I went to Jerry. I'm in shelter the whole time. I left a bit of a gap so I can see the road, because it's real bumpy. That's why you see that gap. That's intentional. I'm looking for Paul. You saw Mo look behind because he saw a bit of a gap on Jerry's wheel. He was looking to see if there was a problem, because he knows how, you gotta get to know how many people are there. You gotta get to know which wheel you're behind. So you see Jerry will drift over. He should do it now. Perfect. And then I'm gonna ride past him a little bit. This is where it can get risky. If Jerry doesn't slow down, I'll have to speed up. And so if people don't slow down when they move over, then the speeds just keep increasing. And that's what Mike F was talking about in the parking lot. He said that pretty soon you end up doing 35 miles an hour, you know, before you realize that you're blown. This guy's going too far before he moves over, so he does not understand how this works, and that's okay. You learn by doing, and nobody had the chance to tell him. So he's too far in front of Paul. He's not giving Paul protection, like he's pulling. This is not he's spending too much time up there. Watch Mo. Mo just slides right in front of him. See that? That's the way it's done. So that he gives this guy shelter right away, and then Jesus should have been closer. Now he's going to go in front of Mo, and so forth and so on. Great shots here. Paul did a great job. That's Jared. He's having fun. So you don't work hard the whole time. If you do it right, you're resting most of the time. And actually what I find in this kind of a Paceline, I can ride a larger gear because it's almost like you're cruising most of the time when the speed is steady. This is beautiful, guys. So I will definitely be doing more of Mo's rides because I want to be involved in these drills. This is beautiful. Haven't done this in a long time. We used to do this when I raced. Because when the team rides together, that's how everybody gets a workout. So right there, I think Jerry's gonna, I don't know if this is where he looks for me because maybe it's later. What I do is, one part of this course when we're doing this, look how close I am to Jerry when I come over. I look down to make sure I clear his wheel. All I'm doing is I'm looking under my arm, guys. When you look under your arm, you see the road, your bike, and the wheel. And you're looking for that person's front wheel so you can drift over safely. If there's a doubt, take a few pedal strokes and then drift over. This guy's doing it better now. I think he's picking it up. And this road is hard to do. That's what Jerry was saying. This was the tough road to do it on because right here is going up. It may not register. It's 0.7 whatever. We're not crawling here. We're moving. You know, we're not going super fast or anything. And I don't know when that guy shows up, but I'm going to put an arrow on him when he passes. So we continue to Paceline. I'm a little off of Jerry's wheels on purpose. I speed up here to get up to him. And you see me soft pedal again because of the road. You know, I want to see all the cracks. So now Jerry rolls in front of Jared. He should already be moving over. He's going too far forward. He should roll over earlier. You got to go right as close as possible in front of him. This is where this guy is on the left. I put an arrow on him there. He passes us. The guy on the tri-bike. He's not part of our group. Nobody we know. And all of a sudden, I noticed the whole demeanor of certain people in the group change. They don't like the fact that this guy comes by like that. You know, I guess making us look bad. So I just noticed in a little while the speed starts to change. Mo's trying to keep us focused on what we're trying to accomplish here. So Mo gets in front of Mike. You can see Jesus. That guy's right there. He's not going anywhere, but this is not about that guy, but I just want you to see how road racers behave. They don't like being passed. And I noticed it bugged Katie. She couldn't wait to chase this guy down. And also Jerry, because Jerry literally ended up saying what everybody was thinking. He said, "You guys are killing me here," meaning we're holding him back. He wanted to go. Jerry, he said it and I laughed. But the speed start, look at our speed, 38. The speeds are faster all of a sudden. We were supposed to be doing 33 to 35. It's picking up. And Mo just said, you guys, something like that, keep it together. I think he told Jared to come over because Katie and Mike went so hard that they were off the front now. So the rotation has broken up right here. So then they realized and they slowed down a little bit. At this point, we're pretty close to the guy because they just lifted the pace. It's like instinct. And you can see they backed off a little bit so we can continue the plan. That's what Jerry said we were killing him. So Jared pulled over in front of Katie. We're doing 36 into this wind and these grades. We're holding these race horses back, these thoroughbreds. So I roll past Jerry. I have no interest in that guy. It means nothing to me. So I look at Jerry's wheel and I slide over. And then Paul comes around. Now the road, this part of this road, you can see it starts going up. I love this road. Not the smoothest pavement, but I love the undulations. So Paul is here, and then that's Mike. Then Mo goes up. I believe this is where Mo intentionally keeps the speed down for a little bit, just to let everybody know what this is about. Just basically leading by example. Jesus goes over. Mike F is a little further back than he should be. And Mo, you see Mo gets back in front of Mike F right there. He wants to keep things under control. I ended up mentioning to Jared. And Jared smiled. I said he's trying to keep us together. And Jared smiled as he went through there. That's Jerry. I should be the next one coming. Yep. The road's changing. It's up and down. So the groups, certain riders, getting hard for Mike here on the left. There's the guy with his light blinking right up there. It's almost like hanging red meat in front of a lion or something. But this is so beautiful. This is a great shot from Paulie Longa. You see the Paceline working. And even though we're holding back, you can see the terrain has changed. -2 grade. So we're doing 41 kilometers an hour. We're not going hard here. And so Mo tells us not to freewheel. I don't know if it's here or the next one, but he tells us not to freewheel. I think he already said it. You know, we'll take advantage of the undulation and ride the downhill. So Paulie Longa pulls through. And you see Mike F. He's still, that's a lot of energy. He should have slid over earlier and backed off. When you ride like that, you're wasting energy. And then you're not giving the person who pulled over protection. The road's going up. This is where this road gets harder now. There's a lot of grades here. I think that will register. We're heading towards a place called Leah Drive where it really kicks up. Yeah, it says 2%, and it's gonna just keep going up. And Mo's staying up there, keeping things sensible. And these guys just got their eyes on that guy right up there. And Katie's going through Jesus, and then Jared, and then Jerry, and I should be on Jerry's wheel. I'm kind of keeping my eye on Paul, making sure that he's doing okay, because I know that he's not going to push hard today. But this was so beautiful to see. I'm glad that we got this much footage of it, because on Sunday when I mentioned the mole, when I saw him at the ride, the day after this ride, I told him we got clips. And for his standard, I think he expected us to do this longer. And so I just want him to kind of see that we did get a good piece of it going, you know. But he wants the group to ride more like this, under control, with some more discipline. And I think that is really cool. I'm going to slide over. There you go. So Jerry's protected. And so this is the only time the person works. And then once they slide over, that other wheel should be coming. So you work just that little snippet. Before you know it, man, you feel fresh. See, he's too far up the road before he comes over. He doesn't even come over. So, yeah, next time we ride with Mike, we'll mention that. Just walk him through the process. Right here, the road's going up. So I'm going to hang back because the group's breaking up. It's getting hard. And I start to go and I realize Paul's not there. I'm going to look back for him. We'd already talked. I know Paul. We ride enough together. So I go ahead and ride up to them knowing that he's going to ride his pace. They're going hard there. I just ride up and bridge up to them. So we go about maybe 1.5 kilometers, and then there's a train blocking the road down there. We have to come back. At this point, we're not aware. I end up telling them, when I get up there, I tell them I'm going to wait for Paul, because I wasn't sure if there was going to be an official regrouping, because Paul and I do a lot of miles on Saturday. So I go ahead and ride up there. I edited for time here, just to kind of move things along. The stats that you've seen, our speeds were about maybe 0.5 kilometer up the road. We're not that far ahead. You can see where my cadence went down and now it's come back up. We've turned around because of the train. That gray thing you see down there behind those headlights, that's the tank cars, the trailer cars, or what they call them, tank cars in the train. Basically blocking the road. You can see my 0 RPM, I'm coasting. We see Paul coming right here. That's Jerry standing there. you will hear me tell him to turn around. I didn't want, he stopped here on clip because he realized we're coming back. I told him, you know, go. Because once you're stopped and riders are going, by the time you clip in, you're gapped. So we're gonna go up about half a kilometer where that incline was and turn left. There's a road called Leah Drive that takes us to Fish Creek East, which is left in this direction. I'm looking back for Paul. He's riding up to us. At this point, the guy who was up front is with Mo and them, because they were in front when we turn around. But it was just funny to see how our thoroughbreds could not restrain themselves. You know, and Mo tried to keep the speeds down. So we talked with Jerry at the end of the ride. We hooked up with Jerry on the way back, and we rode quite a bit together. He said, "Yeah," as I remember that, he said, "Yeah, you guys were killing me." And he said that in the group, "You guys are killing me." It was hard for them to keep the speed down. That's probably what they're talking about. So Paul rides up to me here. It's still early in the ride for us. You can see where it says 50 minutes. We've got 2 hours in our legs because we rode about an hour. But this is a 7-hour day. So we're turning left here. I just lean the bike, the road's dry, those Victorias have great grip, and I open a gap right there. You see that? So you can sneak away in a lot of little spots. That's what you do when you do a criteria. You make up time in the corners. Jerry needs to use the restroom. We didn't know at this point, so he takes off there. He's trying to get ahead so he can stop somewhere, use the restroom, and catch back up by the time we get up on Fish Creek. That's why he passes the group as well. I go ahead and just maintain a hard enough pace to pull Paul and myself back to the group. The group's right there, holding them right here. It's on this road that we have this genius who makes a poor decision to pass when it's really not necessary. This is a quiet subdivision we're going through here. These roads are small, you know, third tier roads. They're never crowded. And all you have to do is be a little patient. It wasn't too bad because the other driver saw that knucklehead make that move and he stopped. The other driver on the opposite side. At this point, Paul had already decided he was not going to ride at that pace that these guys were doing. So this is the guy. See, there's a car coming. The guy has to stop so he can get by. It was just not necessary. It wasn't as close for us, but I'm just saying that they do stuff like that, and then before you know it, they swing in your lane when they get jammed. You know, there's an intersection right up that hill. And the funny thing is, they do all of this and all of us get there about the same time. That's what I mean about poor decision making. We're already there. They're sitting there because you have to stop for the traffic that's headed south, which is right. We're going north, which is left. We're all here at the same time. There's the guy in the red truck. Now let's look at a line of cyclists on Fish Creek. Everybody was out riding today, just all kinds of different groups. So it's clear, we turn onto the main highway. This is Fish Creek. We're gonna use that overpass because of that train sitting over there. And these guys that are on the right have gotten dropped from that group that you saw, that group moving along. We found out later that they also start in the woodlands as well. Everybody's getting ready for the rides that are coming up in the spring. The spring is already here. So I'll go ahead and ride up to the group here. I think I'm on Jared's wheel, or I'll ride up to Jared's wheel. That's Tim. Tim used to ride with us from time to time with Team RR, and he greets Paul here.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you too, man.
So at this point, Paul decides to stay here at the pace he's doing. The stats you see are mine. I'm up the road. I'm with the group. The guy in the red, that's the guy who was doing all, that was Mike. Every time he would come around, he would leave too much of a gap to Paul. He had expended so much energy in the Paceline. Right here, he's cooked. And he's done right there. I don't know why he's looking back, but he's done. So I rode around him, got on Jerry. We're passing that big group. That's us on the left. We've already passed that big group. We're in front of that big group. The big group is right behind here. That's what you're looking at. We're up there. Mo pulled us over that overpass, holding about, I would think 21, 22 miles an hour, something like that. And that's tough on that overpass after all the stuff we've been doing on Pony Egypt. And we just rode away. So that big group ends up turning left on the downhill of the overpass. We go straight to Capitol Road like we always do. Jerry is still back there because he had to pee. So he ends up catching up later. This is Tim on the left, and that's Mike, who was pulling through too much. He expended all his energy and he just could not continue at that pace. Paul Lunga and Tim and Mike are riding together here. You can see our speed. We're doing 38 kilometers an hour, 39 on the other side. Mo is still at the front just pulling. I'm coasting, so we must be on the downhill, the end of the downhill. But the pace stayed high. Once we got to Capitol Road, it backed off a little bit. And we're up the road. You can't see us. The camera does not show us very well at this point. They're gonna turn left here. Paul's going straight. So Mike tells Paul good luck. Paul heads straight. Mo had told us when we got on Capitol Road that we were going to wait at Raven Chapel and Capitol Road, the stop sign down the other way, to regroup. And the guy that turned left ends up telling us, because when you turn left, it's a shorter way to get up to that intersection. So we see him and he tells us that Jerry went straight on that highway. So that way we didn't have to wait for Jerry. So right here, we've regrouped with Paul. We're on Raven Chapel Road. He had turned the camera off and he turned it on here. Knowing that he's still gonna do his own pace, I just gotta sit on the back of Mo's group right here. Mo's still pulling. Mo went back to get Paul part way. I might be following Katie here. I'm just sitting, hanging off the back. Not sure who I'm behind. But these guys did not back off the pace. Once we got out here, you know, on this road where you got the wind and the slight grade, 35 kilometers an hour, that's a good clip. We've only done 28 kilometers at this point, really. So it's early in the ride. That's 28 kilometers since we started with them. For us, we've got another, I guess 12 kilometers or 16 kilometers, probably 16 kilometers, about 10 miles.
That truck driver was very patient. He waited quite a bit before he went by. When he did go by, he just passed both groups at the same time. The professional drivers generally take driving very seriously. It's the everyday people that are too casual about it. General. Doesn't apply to everybody. There are exceptions, of course. A lot of drivers are very serious about it and they pay attention and so forth, but you know, it doesn't take much. You get one or two and situations occur. So when we drive, we have to drive for the ones that don't take it seriously. When we ride, we have to ride for the ones that don't take it seriously on the bike or in the car. That's just how you have to kind of coexist. So we go through the stop sign. I go ahead and ride up and tell Jared to let Mo know that I'm gonna stay back with Paul, because that truck that passed us, Mo is sitting on the truck, drafting the truck, and then Mike F joins him, Katie, all of them are drafting the truck up that hill. You can barely see it, but that's what's happening back there. At this point, I've backed off and I'm waiting on Paul. So I'm gonna go ahead and here, I think I edit for time. So you can see me up the road there. That's me in front of that gray vehicle. Then this red truck comes. They both go around me. The riders are not that far ahead at this point, but I back off the power. Paul catches up. So he gives me the camera here.
Take this so you get a film up there where you go, man.
We got a bit of film, quite a bit. I tried to go out and tell Mo I was gonna sit by with you. He jumped on that truck and took off. How you feeling?
I'm good, man.
Okay, come on, let's ride.
So we go ahead and start moving. At this point in the ride, we turn the camera on after going through the Tri-Lakes area. We're heading Keenan Cutoff, heading east. 4 hours and 40 minutes into the ride. Per their time, is more for us it's like 5:40 because we have an extra hour before we start with them. We ended up climbing about 3,700 feet on this ride. About 1,100 some meters or whatever, which was quite a bit because of the direction that Jerry recommended, going clockwise on Bethel Road to 149 ended up having more climbing than counterclockwise. So we made a note of that. That's going to be our preferred direction. We're on Keenan Cutoff, and this road has a few undulations as well. I don't know if those of you who paid close attention when Mo was suggesting the route, his emphasis was safety, safe route. So the routes that we go on, we pick them for challenge and safety, meaning on the major highways they have shoulders, low volume of traffic. All of that is a factor. We avoid very tricky roads because you ride so frequently, you want to work out. You don't want to be concerned about traffic jams or just unsafe roads, meaning they're narrow and then you got a lot of high-speed traffic. So you have to plan your routes. Don't leave it to chance. I decided to stand here just to kind of loosen up a little bit. I know I've said it before, but I cannot stress enough that how important it is for your bike to fit you. Don't focus on what the bike costs. Focus on investing the time in getting the correct size frame when you decide to get a bike, and making sure that you get a good fit. That's critical. You will enjoy the whole experience so much more. It's later in the day, 2:15 p.m. The wind has picked up. It's blowing from the southeast, and that's why the day is nice and warm. 19 Celsius, and it actually feels very nice. It's right around 68 Fahrenheit, 68, 69 Fahrenheit. It feels a little cooler than that. In a few kilometers, I have Paul come to the front so we can get his kit on film. He's got a stealth outfit on this ride. A brevet jersey in navy. This road goes up and down. See, it says 2% here. You feel it. We're not riding it very hard at this point. We were pretty much closing out the ride, and we were very pleasantly surprised when we came across Jerry. Jerry had a flat on the way back, and the group didn't hear him. So I tell Paul to come out so I can get it. I said, let's get this kid on film. So he takes the lead. I slip in the draft. I think I got different views of him. I think I tried to get the gearing he was riding, but with the cloudiness of the day, you can't really see it that well. But I got some different varying shots from different angles. He's riding the Blade today. The Giant Propel Advance. Yeah, this is a good shot from the back. You can see that bike looks like a Blade. The tubes are just cut through the air. You can hear that wind. We're going into the east wind, and then the south wind is from the right. That's why I'm on his side. Yeah, he had, I think he ran over a little rock, and those rocks can cause a pinch flat, or some of them, if you hit them just right, they can even cut your tire a little bit. It may not stop you immediately, but over time you get enough cuts. It just, limits, reduces the use that you can get out of the tire. So I watch everything when I'm riding, try to extend the life of those components. I give him the camera, I roll back to the front. We're gonna go through the Grand Lake Estates, which is about a few kilometers up ahead. That's where we end up meeting Jerry. Jerry was like, I'm glad I ran into you guys because I was about to give up. And so he decided, because he met us, he decided to go for his 100-miler. It's always good to have some company to kind of push you along. Besides the drafting, it's just a morale boost. There are times when it's great to ride solo, but every now and then you gotta mix in some social interaction on the bike. Cuts down on the monotony. road is nice and safe, and it's close enough in to where even during the week it's within reach sometimes. If I come out here from where I live during the week, it will take me about 3 hours 45 to do the loop. This is where we turn. I put weight on the outside pedal and take the turn. Stand up to roll the gear, and then we're pleasantly surprised. Jerry said he saw our lights in the front. He saw flashing lights. He's coming the opposite way. Somewhere around here we spotted him. I said we see a cyclist. There he is, on the left. It's really cool to meet him out here. And so I was like, come on, buddy, let's go. So he ended up riding with us. You'll see we go to Honia, Egypt, we go in town, and then even off camera, he goes past where he lives just to get his kilometers in to get to his goal for the day. And so he said it was really cool that he ran into us because it helped encourage him to keep going. So just seeing Jerry, all of a sudden, it's like the impetus returns. You can see our speeds are higher, and we're going into the wind. And look at this terrain. It's just beautiful. I love coming out here. Always like this during the week. There's a large acre homes. People buy lots and build, so it's not very congested. This is where we start to chat about, what route we did and what they did. We did the same route. We were just behind them. Those of you who are not familiar with Jerry, Jerry was featured about 2 or 3 group rides ago on one of our rides. So he said he's telling us that he had a flat. We chatted for a while, and this is where we hit Honia, Egypt Road. Jerry had told us that he was trying to get his segments improved, and on this ride he was just tired. His times were slower, so I decided to go ahead and pull us in since he's tired. So I told Paul to get on his wheel, and then I got in front of Jerry and just kind of got into a rhythm. I like this road. At this point, we're going into the wind from the south and the east on our left. You hear it? Keep the pace very steady because my intent is to ride for the next 10 kilometers or more to get us into town. I think most of the ride we rode between probably 22 to 24 or something like that. This part of the ride. We don't do the same speeds for the entire 7 hours. If we hook up with a group, of course the pace is a little quicker. But once it's the 2 of us, we work on certain things. We chat, so the pace comes down a bit. Decent, but we're not setting any speed records or anything. When it's just the two of us, we get a chance to catch up on any questions from riding and whatever that may be on either my mind or Paul. We bounce off of each other and we just have these discussions. And we have certain sections where we get to a road or a hill that we like and we decide we want to push on that hill. So overall, we're not setting any record average speed, but in between we're getting hard efforts in. All of us know this road, but I make sure that I point out what's going on with the surface. Even though people know the road, you still have to point out, because when they're following, they don't have the clear line of sight all the time. So when I'm riding, I try to decide, okay, and I'm gonna ride to the right or I'm gonna stay to the left of this half of the lane based on what the surface is doing. You have to make your decisions early so your line is predictable for the people following. What Jerry was saying early in the ride was that this other bike that he only has one bottle cage on it. But the other bike that he's trying to set up, the seat post has a wedge and it keeps slipping on it. And so, the wedge technology is like an expander style kind of thing. And so I told him, I said, yeah, maybe you just want to try a slightly larger wedge. We talked about it off camera. It's really good if you have multiple bikes that you keep both of them ready, because you never know what's going to happen to one. And people like Jerry that ride a lot, it's good to have two bikes, because then you don't miss your training if you have mechanical issues with a bike. Because sometimes you have to wait on a part, or even if you take it to the shop, they're not going to turn it around right away. So I think every cyclist, if you can afford it, should have at least two bikes. The joke we have is N+1, meaning how many bikes should you own? And we say N+1, meaning that N is the current number of bikes that you own. So you should always own N+1, meaning there's always another bike on the horizon. In your mind, at least. When I was building my Colnago, it was the third frame I had done after getting the Kish and the Lighthouse. My then 5-year-old, who is 7 now, she said, "Daddy's making a new bike." I always thought that was really cute, because I just had the frame and I was putting components and different things I was doing to it. So it was as if to say to her little mind, I was making a bike. And that's so true. We turn around the corner here and that bump. I was telling Paul that when we rode this here on this film, we rode it faster than when I rode with the racers on Sunday. The racers are so crafty that by the time we got here, everybody was backing off. No one wanted to pull. Everybody was taking 3-pedal stroke pulls. And so when we got to that hill up there, everybody was in like a 39-23 or something ridiculous like that. We ended up riding that thing so slowly, I was like, I should have just stayed at the front. I haven't ridden with them often enough to know how they behave, but throughout the ride, the pace kept changing. Just like, it's like a road racing competition. That's how most ride on Saturdays advertised. The one that we joined today earlier. The one on Sunday is more of a social ride, but it still has guys that will change the pace. And somebody had asked on the channel this week why the group rides are not enforced to where everybody stays together. What's the point of calling it a group ride when things break up? And so I responded to him saying I was going to bring it up in a live session, but I didn't want to depend on that. So I gave him links to some of my etiquette videos to read up on group rides. You don't want your group ride to be too restrictive. You can have a general plan, but let people do stuff. If it's safe, let them have their fun, and you just have the main group stay together. So all I'm doing here is just keeping the pace steady. We're at the bottom of zone 4 here. And we rode this harder than with the racers. The racers were being crafty, so everybody was in a small gear waiting for an attack. That they'd been launching attacks on Sunday the whole ride. This thing stays as a grade, even though it doesn't die, it says 1%. After you get over that bump, it stays as a grade, and we're going into the east wind, southeast wind. So the entire stretch, you're dealing with the wind. Around here, I usually shift to like a 53, 23 or something like that. I started in like 39, 17, or even 19 sometimes, but by this point, I'm in a 23 or 21, something like that. And then when we go around that curve, I go to the 19. You always want to shift because the road will tell you. When you feel your legs laboring, shift down to keep your cadence up. Then if you need to change speeds, you're in the right gear. I always just listen to what the terrain is telling me. So if you want to build your strength, and you're spinning and the road starts to hit you and you want to work on strength, stay in the same gear and try to maintain your cadence. So right here it levels off a little bit, and then up there it will hit a little bump right where that road to the right is showing. Where that car is by now, it's a bump. It's a 1%er. Doesn't last. But when I get there, I downshift and I spin the smaller gear, which keeps the speed the same, but it gives my legs a break and it taps my aerobic system right here. I spin up. So it went to the 90s. I don't know what I was holding earlier, but. And then once I get through there, I shift up again because it levels off a little bit. And around that curve, there's a bit of a grade again. So you always must be using your gears. If you're going to carry them, use them. Don't worry about your speed. Maintain your rhythm. You can see Jerry's in the draft, and he'll pedal, and then he can coast because you're in the draft, and we're kind of slightly downhill. Yeah, it says -1, I think. Yeah, so it's slightly downhill, so you can coast a little bit. But you at the front, you're the guy plowing through the wind. So you need to make sure your gearing is correct so you don't overload your muscles. So when your legs tighten up, you need more time to recover than when you tax your aerobic system. So Jerry and I talked about gearing on this ride, and consistent with what we talk about on this channel. He says he does it all. He'll ride, he'll keep his in irrespective cadences. He'll ride larger gears certain times. You got to do that. You can't just ride light gears all the time. Not only is it boring, but you have to build your strength somehow. And it's good to be able to do it all because you'll need to. You never know. So at this point, we're approaching the
highway there. This is where I discovered on the map that road up there we've been calling Fish Creek. Fish Creek is to the left, even though it's the same road. When you turn right, they call it Honia, Egypt. So this wide open road we're turning on is Honia, Egypt continuing on the map anyway, and that's what the name said. I just discovered that on Sunday. I told Paul about it. I said, these people in their naming conventions. So this is still Honia, Egypt. And because it's late in the afternoon, this road is very busy. Even when it's early in the morning, I just use the shoulder here. It's nice, about 2.5, 3 feet, smooth. We use the shoulder here. You share the road. If it's a big group, you know, later on when we get near the intersection, you will see how I check for traffic before I get in the main lane. And I get in the main lane at the intersection to become part of the main traffic to go through the intersection. It's a lot simpler to do that than to queue up on the right side of cars. Unless it's a bike lane, an official bike lane, I use the main lane to get through intersections. For example, if you're riding on the shoulder and you're going through an intersection that has a right turn lane, get off the shoulder, take that main lane to the left of that right turn lane so everybody knows that you're going straight. Since it's not an official bike lane per se, it just keeps it simple for the drivers on the road. We get caught by this light here. There's a cyclist going across the other way. We're in town, so I take a drink. I speed it up here. This light took a bit, and so I just edited for time. I'm in a low gear, so when it changes, I have no problem getting going. Always make sure you shift down before you start. Jerry's in a slightly larger gear. He feels like doing that at this time. And so it's kind of cool that we talked about that, because I like cyclists who do everything instead of just one thing. I mean, who wants to do the same thing every day? That'd be kind of dull. So we're just kind of rolling along. We'll roll back up to speed. In a little while, we'll get to 1488. And this is where I want to kind of show you how, when you're in town, you need to become a part of traffic as it gets busier or more congested. Don't stay outside of the main traffic, especially when you're going through intersections. I keep my gears moderate here, and I'm spinning. On this shoe here, I had put new cleats on it, so I was using my multi-tool in the parking lot. So throughout the ride, from time to time when we'd stop, I was tweaking the left cleat. Even though I marked it, I think it moved. You know, the cleats are made of plastic. They expand, they contract. So I usually take my tool for the first few rides to make sure everything's settled the way I like it. Because you can hurt your knee if your cleat's not right. And that's another reason I use cleats with a little bit of float. So if they're not perfect, my leg is not locked in per se. I don't do the fixed cleats, just in case, because you can hurt your knee if the cleat is not right, whether it's lateral or fore aft on the shoe. Your cleat position on your shoe and your saddle, that's what keeps you in your sweet spot. They have to both be right. You see me looking for traffic, I'm checking, and there's not a whole lot of gaps, so I'm going to go ahead and let the next driver know, this guy, I'll let him know I'm going to get in there. And when I put my arm out, I made sure he was slowing down before I moved over. I made sure he saw me. And you see, now we've become part of traffic. If we had stayed on the right, it would have been confusing, because that's not a legitimate lane for going straight. The right lane goes to the right. So don't do that. We have cyclists that ride with us sometimes that do that. It's confusing to the drivers. So now we're in this lane that ends. Even though it goes straight, when it goes across, it ends. But that's a legitimate lane. And so the light changes. I'm in the proper gear, because once I clip in, I want to be able to get up to speed quickly. And always keep your eye on the car in front of you when the light changes, because sometimes they stop. So that lane now will end, and it's supposed to merge to the left. You see that truck? She's signal, he's merging. That's our lane. So I just stay to the right of our lane as we go across. I don't merge because there's a shoulder starting, so I stay near the white line, and I just go ahead and get on the shoulder here. We're going to be turning left in about probably 300 yards, I guess, something like that. About 900 meters. No. 100 meters. So I'm keeping my eye on the traffic. I keep looking back, looking for the right gap. We have the gap, I signal. And I'm checking not just this lane, I'm also checking the turn lane forward and back, because we're getting in early and somebody could get in to turn the other way. And so in a little bit, Paul asks where Jerry is, because Jerry's back there, and then I tell him that Jerry's behind, there's a car. You'll see him after the credits roll, and he's right behind us. So I hope y'all got a chance to get some K's in. This is what we did on Saturday.